The Building Better Business podcast is the best place to learn how to take your business to the next level. It's no longer enough to earn good profits. You need to develop a network of connections as well as use all types of marketing to your advantage that will put you over the edge. Hosted by me, Steve Eschbach, a financial executive with decades of experience in dealing with businesses and business people, we'll learn how this all comes together. Join me and my expert guests as we delve into the many facets of owning the business and how to become a good, caring business owner. Listen how making a difference in your community can attract all sorts of clientele, which in turn will build you a better business. Greetings of the day, my fellow listeners, and welcome to another edition of Building Better Businesses. I am your host, Steve Eschbach. I'm a business owner here in the Chicagoland area. I own the Transworld Business Advisors of Naperville franchise. I am one of about 6 or 7 in the greater Chicagoland area. I am also one of about 250 offices worldwide. There are 600 agents that are doing mergers and acquisitions in what I would characterize the small and medium-sized market. So anything from mom and pops, the small local shop that you see in your local neighborhood, to the businesses that are probably upward to about $50 million. Our job is to work with business owners and confidentially assist them sell their business and match them with qualified buyers. But I will tell you that of late, some of these owners are looking to expand via acquisition. So we also help them on the buy side as well. Other things we do are franchise sales. So any executive in transition or anyone for that matter looking to buy a business using a franchise, we can help you with that. And we also do franchise development. So if you're a business looking to expand via the franchise model, United Franchise Group, the parent of Transworld, has put together probably 2,000 or more of them in its 40-year history. Sinorama is one of the most prolific names that is out there. So getting back to our subject matter at hand, building better businesses, this is a podcast series where we bring in subject matter experts and those out there who have been there and done that. And we cover a range of topics. And today I'm delighted that we're going to talk a little bit more about hiring the right people. And I'm delighted to have a brother team. This is the second ever tandem that I have interviewed. I had one before. It was a husband and wife team. This is a brother team. So it is family related, if you will. So I'm delighted to welcome Dan and Eric Hoffend to the show. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. You're going to have to coordinate how you can speak without speaking over one another. Eric, your comments first.
Well, first and foremost, I challenge those who are out there buying franchises. What makes the big difference? It's the people, right? The people make the difference. And that's what our book is about. Finding, not settling, finding, motivating, and retaining top talent. So those people that you do find, how do you motivate them and keep them in high performance? So incredibly appropriate for your business as well. Making the best franchise possible, go get the best talent. That's my initial thought.
Any opening commentaries there?
Yeah, right on. Well, thanks, Steve, for having us here today. I'm a fan of your show. It's good. And, Eric and I started in a family business and built a trade show event business up to about 50 million. And then we sold it. So we're kind of right in your thing. And we worked for that company for about 18 years, building $500, $600 million divisions for them. So we really had a lot of experience in hiring hundreds of people as we tried to build this big business out from the small business we started with.
Right. Like you both have said, people are a critical component to building better businesses, whether in fact they're your own employees or engaging outside subject matter experts in the terms of consultants and contractors and whatnot. We're going to explore a little bit more about that in a moment, but I have to ask the magical question, as I do with all my guests. We have to rewind the videotape, talk a little bit about your childhood. Now, which one of you two is older, by the way?
I hate when you ask that question because he is, and that makes him younger and me older.
Yeah, but that's not the issue. The issue is, where were you two born and raised? And tell me a little bit about how your childhood paved the way for where you are today. Not only your childhood, but how your parents and any other family members kind of steered you to where you guys are today.
Yeah, we grew up in the Rochester, New York area, upstate New York. And our foundation was clearly set by our mother. She was a nurse, and she had very high empathy. And it was very important for us. And when we had fights or arguments or issues or whatever, she would not tolerate a constant bickering without understanding what each other's side was. And she was really tight with that. And it really helped us formulate our strategy for business and being empathetic, being authentic, real, if you will, to the employees that you work with. Really understand what they're dealing with.
It's funny, in the last chapter of the book, we talk about wisdom from mom's powder room. And there was 3 poems that were in her powder room that really, at the end of the book, we tell the story around those and how that really shaped the way we do business and how that we have grown into this empathetic, emotionally intelligent sort of take on business.
And my dad was a big personality, and that helped us learn that part of things. He was always the guy that had the fastest boat or the biggest TV. And we realized that the real purpose of that was to get people together, bring people together. It wasn't we thought it was because he was trying to be flashy, but he was trying to bring people together. Everybody wanted to go to his house for Super Bowl, and everybody wanted to go down the lake with his big fast boat. And, it was great growing up because we had these 2 really good coaches that helped us evolve.
Well, that sounds good. And you covered a couple of themes that I'm sure you'll talk about them later on, is in engaging and collaborating. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. Before I ask you two, did you ever envision that when you were young and growing up, that you two would be partnering together and working together at all?
Every day, all the time. We always knew it. It was inevitable. We were working together before we sold our company. Then during, we collaborated a lot. And then coming out of this, we talked about writing a book for 10 years, and we finally did it, and we're thrilled to do it.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Would you characterize your subject matter expertise in human resources? Would it be talent acquisition? How would you describe what it is that you work with your clients on? What would you characterize that as?
Yeah, that's a great question. We didn't grow up in HR. I mean, that's not our field. Our field was building businesses. And so always, as a part of that, you had to work closely with your HR department, quite frankly. However, the real engagement is about leadership. It all starts with leadership. It's evolved with, and then leadership leads into management. Then management leads into, okay, what's the culture going to be like? And then culture leads into our policies. Will they match our culture, or will they deviate from that? And so there's all these different parts and pieces that go into play in the strategy behind building a business that accelerates their brand and accelerates their opportunities.
Our business has always been around efficiencies, and especially in the events business, but also when we looked at the way communication happens, and there's a new generation, there's the millennial group come up behind us, and that everyone gets a ribbon sort of mentality, and their moms and dads are fighting for them to get the A in school. Well, it's different now. So you've got to be a lot more emotionally intelligent with the way that you approach your teams. And we looked at performance evaluation and people and how they succeed at a high level. And we adapted it to a vernacular that's very familiar. And on our bell curve, we've got 5 different states of mind that we had. And from the far left, it just doesn't get it. That person is causing havoc and damaging your brand. What do we do with those people? How do we motivate them to high performance? One step up from that is doesn't care. A little bit better, may have been a high performer at one time, fall down the curve. The middle, where the majority of your team is, we call it comfort zone. And comfort zone is people that are doing good work. They're just not raising the bar, so to speak. But they have times when they show greatness. One step up from that to high performance, energized. Think about when you came out of college, or think about when you started a new job. You were so excited to go get it and solve the world's problems and high perform. That's where we want to get people. And the next final step is gets it. You're a problem solver. You're resilient. You understand that failures shouldn't be a step backwards. They should be reviewed, studied to help you progress forwards. That's our bell curve. That's our 5 steps. And we believe very strongly that there is movement up and down the curve with all people. No one person gets it all the time. They fall down the curve. How do you motivate yourself, or are you motivated by a leader to get you back up?
That's an excellent point. Your 5-scale system there, as you got to the last 2, when you talk about energy, excitement, and problem solving. Some of the themes that are emerging with all of my guests that I've had on this program is that you need a passion and you need to be willing to listen to critical feedback. And I always make the statement is that you should always receive critical feedback. It doesn't mean you always have to accept it, but the fact that you're willing to listen, I think that that's a key quality for successful leaders. And of course, the energy and the enthusiasm that you were talking about. Passion drives success, I think. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question passion is, and like as Simon Sinek says, the why, those things are really important in today's environment. And as Eric said, no one stays in that high performance. I'd love to think we all do. We just have bad days. And so it could be weekly, monthly, daily, but you can be a very high motivated talent and lose a big account and fall down the curve, if you will, down to a place where you just don't care anymore. And unless that manager utilizes motivation techniques where it helps to move that person up, they delegate them maybe a large potential account. Let's get you back in the game. Let's help you with your resilience. Like, let's get back up. It's okay. Failure is something we can learn from. Let's move forward. If your management is in the game and they understand that, they will monitor it quickly. Now, on the other hand, we grew up where you got a 2.5 rating. It was below expectations. And then you had an argument for the entire time you had your review. That doesn't work. You've got to create some candid conversations around comfortable verbiage that helps you learn and excel.
Absolutely. Anything else to add, Eric?
And well, I love your comment about accepting constructive criticism, because I just telling Dan this morning, I was on the golf course on Sunday with a friend of mine. He goes, the bell curve is out. It's all about the quadrants now. It's got to be and I was like, I don't think so. And I kind of got it. Then I took a step back and I said to myself, wait a minute. Lots of people use the quadrants. Let me listen to him. Let's learn from him and learn how his aspect is. Dan and I talked earlier today, and we were like, you know what? Let's apply our vernacular. Gets it, doesn't get it, comfort zone, energized, doesn't care, and let's adapt that to a quadrant philosophy so that we can talk to multiple groups. So yeah, I agree 110% with your comment about taking constructive criticism and learning and moving forward. That's super important. And we did it yesterday. It was funny.
And I think you've answered this question, but I'll ask it anyway. How did you find your success? Now, both of you are assisting business owners excel, particularly with talent. But how did you figure out that what you were doing was a successful venture for the both of you?
Well, the first part was probably we were having a ball. We do a lot of video work where we have adventures. We climb mountains and talk about career path. We did management with the NASCAR racing. We're doing experiences along where our discussions, not just we're sitting here at a desk and we're talking about things. We're actually out there experiencing things and applying them. 2 days ago, we worked with Orange Theory on motivation, because they're coaches. They know how to motivate people to get them into fitness. So that when you have joy and love and passion, you're going to excel at it and you're going to do well.
And ultimately, the vision is creating a world where everybody gets it. And there's a page in the book where we say what a gets it day looks like. You kind of show up for breakfast and your server knows how you like your coffee and how you like your eggs, and everything works out great. And you go to work and your manager knows your goals and helps you get there. And the people that work for you and understand your vision, and everything's great. That's our vision. We're going to create a world where imagine what a wonderful world it would be if everyone just gets it, people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me or tell our audience a little bit about your ideal client. Are you looking for a particular industry? Are you looking for a particular size, particular organizational structure? Is it solopreneurs up to 30 employees? What is your sweet spot there, if you will?
Yeah, it ranges pretty dramatically. We work with some very large companies and we work with some smaller ones. As I said earlier, we grew up in family business, so we love that topic. And there is a lot of family businesses where multiple generations have grown up in the business and they only have vision for what they know. So bringing in outside sources to have a discussion about, hey, how do we manage our personal relationships? How do we manage our business relationship? How do we do succession planning? How does that all work out? And how did you, meaning us, figure that out when you guys built this organization and then sold it to a bigger company and then continued working for that bigger company? When we sold, they were sure we were going to leave within 4 years. We stayed for 18 years after we sold the business because we found what we were looking for with the company that acquired us. That's an important part of family transitions in business.
That's a tip there. Anything else to add there, Eric?
And on the acquisition side, you mentioned it earlier, that was part of your business model. And everyone thinks, running the numbers is the hard part. Oh, I got to make the deal. It's the deal. It's the deal. No, it's after the deal. It's the people. How are they going to react? How do they feel? What's their career path now redefined? That's the hard part. The deal is the easy part, getting the people and keeping them on board, finding those people that bring high performance, and of course, motivating them after an acquisition hugely. I've seen it done really well, and we've seen it done not so well.
So what are the first questions you ask? Let's assume that your client is a newly combined company, two companies that have merged together, and they're theoretically a merger of equals. What are the first couple, 3, 4 questions that you ask the management team to determine what the status is currently and what can take them to the next level? I don't know if this is too open-ended and might take too long, but there must be 2 or 3 or 4 key components with that first interview with that client of yours.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. The very first interview, a lot of discussion is around empathy. How does the organization feel about this acquisition or this merger? I know the example is 50-50, but it's really unusual. It's 50-50. It's usually somebody's taking over the other one. If the one that has more money and more power has a philosophy that we are searching for this particular greatness, we have found it in this organization. If things were reversed, you would buy us, but we're lucky enough to have the wherewithal and the money to acquire you. But that doesn't mean we're smarter. In fact, I think you're smarter, because if we didn't acquire you, we would have to do something else. And we've been trying to get into your market for 30 years and we can't get in there. That type of empathy talk puts everybody at ease. Whereas the opposite, we're smarter because we bought you, that is just a complete disaster. You will not retain the talent, as Eric said, and it'll slowly drift into a place where I'm just going to try to find another position. When you can keep your top talent in the company you acquired, you are always going to be successful.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Forgive me. I very rarely do this, but I'm actually going to read one of the questions that your PR firm sent me, because I think it's a very interesting question and should create a lot of commentary. Do you have an example of a dramatic story you can share where a client or client's family being blindsided by a huge loss? Now, this is something I don't typically ask, but I'm asking you, how did you confront a seemingly unsurmountable challenge and assist them to conquer that? I think that's what this question is, right?
Yeah, that's
Is it a financial loss, or could it be a personal loss? What kind of loss do they?
Very general. You pick it. Operational.
I got it.
He's got it. Dan's got it.
I got this one.
Shoot.
Okay, so 2001, early September, we decide to sell our business. The closing date is 9/11.
Oh my.
9:00 in the morning, I'm talking to all of our employees on a call. And my assistant comes into the office and says, you got to see what's going on TV. It's 9:00, 9:15. And of course, everything was going down. We hadn't closed yet, but this was the announcement to the staff so they could prepare for this closing. This was when we were supposed to do it, not before this date. This is the date. That afternoon, we were closing. I called the CEO of the company that was buying us, and there was no question in my mind that it was not going to work. It was not going to happen. And this man, I always knew had some integrity, but when he said to me, I believed in our industry before this day, and I believe in it now, and I believed in your company and my company before this date, and I believe in it now. And I know this is tragic for the world, but we're still going to go through this because we feel that strongly about the future of this business, of our business together, and we feel strongly about the potential of the country and its resilience. And that moment is the reason why Eric and I stayed with that company for 18 years after we sold our business. This was a man of great integrity. And there was many deals, as you can imagine, as you know, Steve, that didn't happen during that time period. In fact, by far, they all didn't. And here, this man stood up. And that was when I really knew what integrity meant. I said I was going to do this. I'm going to do it.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
And at the core values for that organization, one was integrity. And they were very much into, we were there when their core values were established and evolved, and the employees were part of that experience, and it made the company really strong. And when we had a leadership meeting, Dan, remember they said, pick a core value and tell a story. And we picked integrity, and we told that story. And literally the CEO, tears in his eyes, HR people, tears. And I was there, and people were like, I was there when that happened. And you're like, we're still here 15 years later. It was terrific.
Go ahead, finish.
I'm sorry, but the essence of it, our CPL diagram is culture, policy, logic. It starts with any company's core values, and being true to them makes them a gets it company. And this company had a core value of integrity, and they certainly, this leader certainly showed his dedication to that core value with integrity.
What I was going to ask while you were commenting there, that is such a monumental and unprecedented, and you could never predict this would ever happen event. I would imagine you need follow-up communication, reassuring. Integrity is critical. I totally agree with you. There's nothing that can replace the integrity of any individual. But in an environment where it seems like the world is literally falling apart, I would imagine you had to reinforce that a number of times just to make sure it, number one, stayed consistent and you followed through on it. I can't believe it would have been otherwise.
Yeah, it was crucial. And that's, I think, when we learned the hard way how important the transition of an acquisition is. And everybody thinks it's involved in the acquisition. They think that, oh, it was all me that did this. I came up with the price. And oh, it was all me that I did the legal documents. Oh, okay, that's true. But now we have to transition that. If we don't transition this well, it won't work. And that takes a lot of effort and a lot of discussion. And we believe it's personal discussion, face-to-face environments, not it can't be done via email. It really can't. You can set up events for email, even Zoom calls, whatever tool you use, but you have to have multiple ways of communicating. And it isn't just sending out an email saying, oh, aren't we great? Look what we did. That doesn't do it.
Yeah. Eric, anything else to add there?
No, I think my brother nailed that one. He nailed it.
That's how we get along so well.
So I'm going to go into your book now, and the title of your book is Who Gets It? How to Find, Motivate, and Retain Top Talent. Now, one of you told me it took you 10 years to write that book. Is that correct?
I think it was 10 years. We talked about it for 10 years.
Oh, okay. So the reason why I asked that question, because my first book, I wrote it and then took a 2-year break and then went back in and rewrote the whole thing. Now you're telling me it was an idea in the making, but took 10 years to happen. Because if you write a book 10 years ago, you're talking about old brick cell phones, right? And you're not talking about social media where it is today. But so that's a better perspective in terms of understanding how that process worked. But what are the key themes that, and it clearly, who gets it, how to find, motivate, and retain top talent? That's critical. I know a lot of us suffer from that because, hiring someone is probably easy, but keeping them on board and motivating, that's kind of more the challenging part. You guys tell me where you want to go with that, but it's clearly a critical component for success.
It is. Absolutely. Go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say absolutely. That's funny that when the book 10 years in the making, we had used the vernacular. That guy gets it. Oh, Dan, don't worry. That guy gets it. Like then he knew, okay, that I can give him a leadership role. We in the trade show environment and the events environment, we'd have 100 people working for you at one time. You to figure out who gets it and who doesn't get it, who needs a lot of supervision, who doesn't need any. So that was really critical. So as we started to write traits down and start to track this over this long period of time. And then when we finally, right before 2020, we were like, let's do this. We've been talking about it for 10 years. What are we waiting for? 2020 happens, right? What better time to write a book than 2020, shut the doors and write a book. And that's how we got there.
Yeah. Are you guys familiar with the book, What Color Is Your Parachute?
No, I'm not. I'm writing it down.
Yes, it's What Color Is Your Parachute? The only reason why it stands out in my mind, it's a book about networking to get your next job. If you go in and look up that book, it has been revised almost annually for 20 or 30 years. So
Wow.
you guys can put out a second or third edition of your book. But let's talk a little bit about the gets it person, okay? The other question I see in one of your prep materials that I have is that how does someone get to be a gets it person? And you probably have described it along the way during the first part of our interview here, but what is it that we've missed that fits into the quote, gets it person?
Yeah, I think that it's absolutely essential that the person understands problem solving. There are people that come into an environment and they're upbeat and they're ready to move mountains, but they're also down to earth where they can sit and understand what the objectives are, what the goals are, and how can we apply the talent that we have, that the person has or the group has or team has, to recognize how we are going to move this monster forward. And what you find is that if you are hiring 50, 100, 600 people as your business grows, and you can keep them on that same track, like you look for those type of people that are energetic, that are ready to go. They don't have to be extroverts. They just have to be prepared to move when they need to move, the engine that they're going to be moving. You will have a slew of people that are talented. But as Eric said earlier, that can be a lot of work. I mean, you still need some core people that are just getting the job done too. It's just that what you're trying to do is you're trying to understand where people are at any one time and to motivate them up. And motivation comes in a lot of ways. We were talking yesterday about motivating with metrics. People fear metrics sometimes, but if you really look at a metric, if a metric measures the sales revenue, that's a way I can prove my value. So I guess a person looks for ways to prove their value by a metric, not fear is it. And that's
Right.
an important facet of it.
Eric, anything to comment there? I'm sure you must have a couple of pieces of input.
Absolutely. Two things that come to mind: resiliency. I think we mentioned earlier, learning from mistakes, celebrating failures. Okay, this went wrong. If you're a gets it person, you take chances, you take risks. And when it doesn't work out, you learn from it, document, and move forward. You don't hide from it. And the other thing is having your antennas up at all time and being aware of your surrounding and where, to go back to the problem solving, where do problems exist? I went to the Raiders football game on Saturday night here in Las Vegas, and it's the first event ever, and I drive my kids crazy because I'll walk into any environment. I'm like, the log jam is over here. And I'm trying to tell people, explain it. And then my kids are like, well, yeah, come on. But I can't help myself. I see these problems and I'm like, you need a sign out here or you need a person out here because everyone's going the wrong way. Like, help. And that's also attached to karma, I believe. And if you help people along the way, someone's going to help you along the way. So have your antennas up, be aware of your surroundings, do good, be a gets it person in environments that aren't financially incentivized. How about that?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There are a couple more items here that I don't know if we'll have time to get into because we're getting near the end of our comment period or our Q&A period. But there's a concept called good training here in your cheat sheet, as well as conflict resolution. Any kind of summary comments are on those two items in terms of the gets it person?
Yeah, we went to a boxing ring to do.
Don't tell mom.
do conflict resolution. We went to a boxing ring, and we learned from boxers. We had the lightweight champ there. We had the guy that runs this boxing establishment. He did it for kids that have to get a place where they can get out their aggressions. And fabulous place, real great guy. It's called City Boxing in Las Vegas, and we really learned a lot on how they deal with conflict. And we found that there's different conflicts that happen. There can be the bully, the person that just, no matter what you say, they reply and,
what a win.
Smarter,
Yeah.
There can be the person that gives into everything. You ask him this, they say, yes. And there's no success in that kind of conflict resolution. And word gets out, the person just says yes. So just go in there and ask her for a raise. And then ultimately you get to a place where it's about understanding both sides, working together for resolution, not being afraid of conflict, but bringing it out. And always, when done correctly, it improves the relationship with those two people every single time. But if they go in thinking I'm 90% and that person's 10% right, then yeah, it's going to continue to be a conflict for a long time. Yeah. So an understanding of how our personalities work is super important.
Good points. last but not least, there are two things. Number one, we're going to ask you how to find out more about you. But before we do that, is there anything we haven't covered in terms of building better businesses from your perspective that we haven't covered that you want our audience to know about?
I would say, listening to the frontline workers, I think that's critical. Those people in our CPL diagram, we have culture, and then policy is the second ring, and then logic is the final ring. And the logic is the way the customers are treated, their ability to communicate back to the company. If you have inability for managers to make decisions to make a customer happy that are small and monetary value, we did AT&T as an example. This manager of an AT&T store couldn't give a $35 approval to make a decision to make a customer happy. Come on, let's empower people at the front lines to represent the core values of the company and what they're doing. So be true to your core values. And if they don't work, then they need to either change or your policies need to change. But if you don't represent yourself in your core values at the foundation, you're not going to be the gets it company.
Sounds terrific. Well, gentlemen, I think we are just about it. So who's going to tell me where to find more information about? I'm sure we can find both of you on the same website, same link. Who's going to give that to me?
I'll give that to you. Our link is getsitguys.com. hello@getsitguys.com. We'll go right to ourselves. And our book, Who Gets It, is available on Amazon and also on our website. And we just hit international bestseller in two business categories, right, Eric?
Yeah.
So
and then we're on LinkedIn. We're putting all our videos on LinkedIn. We did a video recently about getting people back from post-coronavirus and out of unemployment and how to do that. And we're going to release a new one we did with Orange Theory last week with a new customer of ours. So we're excited about it, about how to motivate people.
Good to know.
So lots of fun videos.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Thanks, gentlemen, for your sharing your insights and your tips and recommendations. And audience, thank you again for listening. And be sure to stay tuned for another edition of Building Better Businesses. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.